So this message doesn't really have a title, other than maybe be prepared, stand firm. There's a lot of different ways we can go, but I'm going to start in Isaiah 34:19. And of course, I'm going to read from the message, just because I like the way it starts. It says, and we talked about this during the communion actually, it says, be alert, be present. I'm about to do something brand new. And that's what we are expecting coming in or coming out of that fast. Is that something brand new? Is we're going to have that revelation of brand new, that something inside of us that is going to change, answers that we've been seeking, or maybe just a calm. Maybe just a calm, to bring a calm to our hearts about something that we've been in the battle of. What if we, I'm going to use the NLT version for this, but it talks about being alert and being prepared. If you read the whole thing, I'm going to skip through here because I get the sense that we're not supposed to take all day to do this kind of stuff. I want to get things moving along. But in that verse, it talks about being prepared and being alert. And it also talks about living in the now. When we are expecting new things in our life, we have to be ready to look around every corner, under every, yes. Isaiah 43:19, sorry. 43:19. Did I say something different?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my eyes playing tricks on me.
Isaiah 43. I know.
It goes on to say, and what God is really saying to you in those is that I want your attention. I want your attention. Think about Abraham. When he was called to take Isaac up the hill, think about how God called his name. He said, Abraham. He called his name directly, Abraham. And I almost get the sense that it was a parent, full naming him. Eric James Crowe.
Yeah.
Abraham. And when you get full name, they get your attention. And that's what God was doing to Abraham in that day, saying, Abraham, I want your attention. Just like now, when we're doing something new, be alert. I want your attention. But think about Abraham's response. Yes, Father. Yes, Father. So not only was he called, but he had that answer in him that showed his love and respect back, because he said, yes, Father. It wasn't just yes. He realized the importance of the moment. And what we have to do right now is realize the importance of this week that we're heading into. Pastor's been talking about it for weeks, is that as we go into the communion and into the fast and then into the worship night and ladies, women of destiny, and then to the service, this is all building blocks to something that's happening here at Life in Christ Fellowship. The end part of that verse says, I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry wasteland. And that's bringing life to the parts that are dead. We all still have little parts of us here and there that are still dead, that the Lord is trying to bring back to life. We have parts of us, maybe sin, that we haven't completely given over yet. Maybe old memories, or maybe unforgiveness in our hearts that we haven't completely given over yet. And that's where the Lord wants to come in with that water through our wasteland and bring life back to those places.
Amen.
And that's what we're looking for. But if you go on to continue that story about Abraham, it talks about him having two servants, right? He called for two servants to be with him. But yet, he rose early. He rose early and cut the wood. He saddled the donkey. And he had servants. He had servants to do this stuff for him. But yet he knew the weight of the matter. He knew what was going on, and he knew that he didn't want to trust servants to do something that God had called him out. Abraham.
Yeah.
So he did not allow the servants to do the work that God had told him to do. Be prepared. And that's what God is calling us to do in this week of preparation, is be prepared. You may have people that pray and help you, but this is for you to cut the wood. This is for you to do the prayer. This is for you to do the communion. This is for you to do that stuff. This is for you to saddle your donkey. Because you think about it, the servants went with Abraham to the mountain. What did the servants ever do? Nothing. They didn't do a thing. But he was prepared just in case. That whole story about getting from where he was to where he needed to be was about preparation. Being prepared for whatever happened. Because when he got there, maybe he would need 2 people. But did he take him when they went up the hill? No. What did he do? He asked his son to carry the wood. I mean, because if we're doing the math, we know that Abraham was an old guy, close to 100 at least, and we have to assume that Isaac was a little more, was younger, stronger, but still he did this. He carried that stuff because his father asked him to. He didn't question anything except, where's the sheep? Where's the sheep? And what did he say? God will provide when we get there. Amen. When we get there, God will provide. But if Abraham wasn't prepared through that process, wouldn't have happened. He cut the wood. He saddled the donkeys. He had to be prepared. This is what we are in right now. We are at that place where Pastor Janet has first named us all. Hey, be ready. And now, this is our week of preparation for the vision that she's had the whole entire time. That was for free. This is the message. I couldn't, when I put this shirt on this morning, I know I've said this a lot, but I got to continue to say it, that if you're not using or letting your wife speak into your life, as husband or wife, if you're not letting them speak into your life, you're missing 50% of what God has for you. There is so much power that comes from her mouth to my ears. We have we just have something that's in our life that God's working with, and it's a good thing. It's nothing bad, and yet, though it may make our life even more crazy, her voice of peace over the whole thing, for me, keeps me in check.
Yeah. Yes.
Rather than me being worried about what could happen, her agreement in what could happen calms the whole thing. So, anyway, that's another part for free. So I want to go to Ephesians 6:10 through 18. Let's see, did I do that one better? Dyslexia didn't come up and bite me this time. And I know we know these scriptures, but I had a different way of looking at it. And this is actually a message that I brought to Teen Challenge, and I wasn't sure that I was really going to do this. There was a lot of things that God had on my heart. So I'm going to start right in verse 10, but really the message is so different than what you have. Maybe it's just better to listen. It says, so that about wraps it up. God is strong, and He wants you strong. Right? We're in preparation, and God wants you strong. So take everything the Master has set out for you. All well-made weapons of the best material. So think about that. A well-made weapon of the best material. The best of the best. He has the best of the best for you. Put them to use so you will be able to stand up against everything the devil throws your way. I love this line. I love this. This is no afternoon athletic contest. Meaning we're not playing football here. We're not playing tag. This isn't Red Rover. You know, this is a real thing. This is a real thing that the Lord wants to do. He said this is not an athletic contest that we walk away from and forget about in a couple of hours. Right? I love that. He said, this is for keep. It's a life or death fight to the finish against the devil and his angels. Small h. Be prepared. There it is again. Be prepared. You're up against more than you can handle on your own. Take all the help you can get. Every weapon issued, God has. So that when it is all over but the shouting, you'll be on your feet. Truth, righteousness, peace, and faith, salvation are more than words. Learn how to apply them. I love that. Learn how to apply them. You'll need them throughout your life. God's word is an indispensable weapon. In that same way, prayer is essential in the ongoing warfare. Pray hard and long. Pray for your brothers and sisters. Keep your eyes open. Keep each other's spirits up so that no one falls behind or drops out. I love the way that's written. A little different. Let's start right at the top. It says, stand up. Stand up to everything the devil throws your way. It says everything the devil throws your way. Everything. Sometimes I don't like that saying, don't sweat the small stuff. Because sometimes the small stuff, it builds up. And I think if we learned to take care of the small stuff when it was small stuff, we wouldn't have any big stuff.
Yeah. Right.
Because it says right here, take care of everything the devil sends your way. Because we know, right? Sometimes the devil does this to us. And we can take that for quite a long time. Can we? We take that for quite a long time.
Becomes background noise.
That's right. And we get lost. We get lost in the annoyance of it, right? But if we took that first tap, no.
That's right.
If we learn to stand up with everything and fight from the start, maybe we would never have those big chains. I love this. In Exodus 15:3, it says, the Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. The Lord is a warrior. And that's what he's calling us to be. If we're calling to be like Jesus, then we're warriors too. It says, be prepared. We've talked about this a lot, and we're going to keep talking about it. Be prepared. It's more than you could handle, which is true. You know, through this, we are called to get our weapons ready and to do communion and to pray and do that stuff. But we're also calling for the help of the Lord with us, right? We're calling for these weapons. We're calling these weapons for us, and we'll talk about those in just a second. But we need that we need those pieces of help for us. It doesn't say anything that we have to do anything alone. Nowhere does it say that you have to be alone to do this fight. Take help. People from the word, faith, or worship, wherever you need it, take help. And I love that when it said, learn how to apply them. Study truth, study righteousness, study peace, study joy, study those things and learn how to apply them in your life. Because then it basically says pray and then pray. When you're all done praying, pray some more. You know, that's what it says. One of the biggest weapons we have is prayer. And I love this part, especially for where it was. It says, keep each other's spirits up so that no one falls behind. We're going into this together. This isn't 50 individual journeys. This is a corporate fast. That means we stay together. The lion and its prides, we stay together. And yeah, there's some of us that roar and protect the rest. But that's the authority that God's given us. But we can't let anybody fall behind. So part of the preparation is prayer for our brothers and sisters. To keep everybody on track. Now, I'm going to jump to the Amplified version. And I'm going to start in verse 13, Ephesians 6:13. This will be a little bit more like we know these scriptures to go. But I'm really going to put emphasis on the weapons. It says, therefore, put on the complete armor of God, right? We know that. So that you are able to successfully, these are words that the Amplified Version puts in, successfully resist and stand your ground in that evil day of danger. Well, not necessarily know if I like that, but I think we get the understanding in your trial. And that having done everything that the trial demands, stand firm. Stand firm in your place. Listen to this. Fully prepared, immovable, and victorious. So before this battle even starts, the Lord is calling us to stand victorious.
Amen.
How would you fight a battle knowing that you won? Would there be a confidence in you that you wouldn't have if you knew that you won? Well, guess what? We know how the story ends, right?
Yes. Right.
We know how our story ends. And yet we let those little things build up inside of us, and we forget. We forget that we are victorious. We forget we are already victorious. Robbie is already not an addict.
Hallelujah.
It's already not an addict. He doesn't believe it yet, but we do. And we can go through all of us and do that same thing. So stand firm again. Here it is, not less than 2 words later. So stand firm. Hold your ground. Having tightened the wide band of truth, of personal integrity and moral courage around your waist. So if you do some research on what warriors' armor really looked like, that belt is not a belt like we wear now. This belt could be up to this thick, from this thick to this thick, or wide, I guess I should say. And what that belt did was it kept the undergarments tight to their body. It kept them tight to their body, so when they put their armor on, they still had the ability to move. So now think of it this way: you wrap yourself in truth, so you have the ability to move. When one study I read said that the wider the belt, the more the experience. Is that they earned these belts, and that the wider they got. So imagine that you had this wide belt of truth that basically held you together. The truth holds you together.
Amen. Amen.
But it used this term, moral courage. And to have morals is a high principle for proper conduct, right? And courage is the ability to do something that frightens you. How often do we have a little fear in life? But if we take those two definitions and we smash them together, it's the ability to maintain high principles of godly conduct in the face of fear.
Amen.
Imagine the ability to maintain your morality and your courage in that face of fear. Because we know we're victorious. We know we're victorious. And now we have that ability to stand with our moral center, with our plumb line straight. Go to 14, it says, it says 15. Yeah, it is. Sorry, it jumps around here. Having put on the breastplate of righteousness, an upright heart. Now, the breastplate in those days started up here around your neck. And they could go down as far as your knee. And they were different styles. But the main part about a breastplate is that it was the centerpiece of the warrior's armor. This is what called out to the enemy about what the warrior was. Because this was decorated. They had their seal. It had the defined abs. Don't check that out right now. But it had the abs. It had all of the gold, the inlays. This is what was meant to distract the enemy that they fought, was their chest plate. But it also was meant to protect their heart. You know, as we enter into any season, we need to protect our heart. Psalm 51:10 says, creating me a clean heart, oh God, renew in me that loyal spirit. Because if we're going to go into any battle together, there has to be a sense of loyalty we have for one another. But that loyalty has to be based that we are able to maintain our purity for each other as well. Matthew 22:37 says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, and your soul. One of the other reasons it said that the more detail in the warrior's chest plate also showed his authority. And you knew what you were fighting against when you came up against him. If you saw somebody in a steel chest plate, you might know, well, he's just, you know, a common ground pounder kind of warrior. But if you saw the guy with the gold chest plate and the big lion on the front, and it hung down to his knees and it covered up to his neck, then you knew that this was a leader. You knew that this was a guy in charge. Let me tell you, you all have that breastplate. You all wear that breastplate every day. You all are leaders and you all have that authority from God, because the reality is that we know what's under that chest plate, right? We know what we're working on. We know our struggles underneath that chest plate. But the beauty of it is the chest plate that God gives you is that that's what he sees. He doesn't see what's underneath the chest plate. He sees the detail in the front. He sees the leader in the front. He sees the man or the Christian in the front ready to go out and be the person he's called you to be. It doesn't matter to God what's underneath that chest plate. When we don that chest plate, what we're really saying is, God, create me in your image. Create me in that image that you see for me. Build me with the detail. Sculpt me and mold me till you have me to that perfect spot. Then it goes on to say, and having strapped on your feet the gospel of peace in preparation to face the enemy with firm-footed stability and readiness produced by the good news. So these shoes that they wore back in the day, they could go up as high as the knee. Sometimes they stopped at the ankle, but they went as high as the knee. And they were wrapped tight from the feet right up to the knee. But they also had cleats or spikes underneath their sandals or their shoes to help them brace, to be immovable. Now imagine what we have here. We have our belt keeping us the truth tight. We have our breastplate and we have our shoes. And imagine if you can stand firm and you know you're protected by your chest plate, what can you sustain? If you're immovable, God said we're immovable. That's what he wants us to be. He wants us to be victorious. But if we also have all of these weapons, which allows us to be protected, we've protected our heart, we're wrapped in truth, and we're walking in the Word, right? That's what this really means. We're walking on the Word of the Lord in our life. And this is how we stand. On all of those places in this scripture where it says stand firm, stand firm, stand firm, stand firm, stand firm. This is how we stand. We stand on the word of the Lord. And the word of the Lord acts as those cleats in our shoes to keep us firm in our position, to stand firm. The shield of faith. It says, above all, lift up the protective shield of faith, which you can extinguish all flaming arrows from the evil one. Amen. When I first was doing this study, I had a very clear vision of a line of warriors, and I believe it was a representation of a bunch of different things, but even this house, there was a couple of people that had taken their shield and they were standing in the front. And when you first saw the vision, all you guys could really see is the warrior in the front. But what was behind him was a lot of people. Because in those times, over 50% a warrior used his shield, it was to protect others. Rarely did he use it to protect himself, but it was when they would drive their shields in the ground and create a line or a wall of shields that kept the enemy out for more than just them. It kept them out for the whole entire army. So in this time, God is calling us to keep our shields ready. So anyway, as the vision progressed, what had happened as that one warrior was in the front, then the warriors behind him started to get closer. They started to get closer to him. And as he got closer, it allowed him the ability to go forward and go forward. Has anybody ever played around with a water hose and watched the water fall on top of something and then watch the water rainbow out? Mm-hmm. I don't know what there's a term for it, and I used to remember what it was. But that's what the vision turned into. As that warrior started walking forward, the attacks from the enemy umbrellaed or rainbowed out, so where not only was he protecting the 3 or 4 behind him, now, because of his strength in going forward, it blossomed out so where he was fitting 50 to 100 people behind him. And imagine it only takes 3 or 4 warriors to go forward before you've got your whole battalion protected. So as we pick up our shield of faith, we have to know that our shield is going to work. Right? Because it's called the shield of faith. And this is where you have to know. If you go in battle and you've got holes in your shield, what are you going to do? You're not going to peek that through the holes in the shield. You're not going to use it, right? You're not going to use it. We have to be ready and know that our shield can take the force of the enemy. Our faith has to be strong enough where we can stand up there and take that hit and still go forward and know and trust that we will not take any damage. And we won't, because we're victorious. We are already victorious, and we have to stand with that shield. In the battle, we don't have time for questions. Questions like, am I worthy? Am I saved? Or am I free? If you're in the middle of a battle and you're questioning who you are, you're gonna get bowled. We have to be ready for it. You have to know where you are. And I know us as a group, we have that. I don't doubt that we don't doubt our shield. We know what it is. And we know that it's big and we know that it's covering. And we have to put our faith in God's promises.
Amen.
Right? Because these are the words he's talking about. When he talks these words and we've got our sandals on and we're standing firm on God's promises, they're in that shield.
Amen.
The helmet of salvation. And take up the helmet of salvation. So it really doesn't talk too much other than have the helmet of salvation. But salvation is the deliverance from the power of sin. Right? That's what our salvation is. Deliverance from the power of sin. So what they're saying is put that deliverance on your head. Walk in that deliverance. That sin is no more. That sin is no more in your life. And that's what we put on our head. That we have the faith and knowledge that sin is no more. And just like our shield, we have to believe that sin is no more. That's right, that we've overcome. If we protect our minds with the knowledge of deliverance, with the knowledge that we're free from sin, the enemy cannot get in there with his little finger and stir up the thoughts. Because how many of us fall victim to the little stir thought thing? Yeah, pretty much all of us, right?
What if?
What if? So now as we go forward, we have to be prepared, right? This is what all of this is. Stand firm, be prepared. Have all your weapons ready, right? This is what Abraham did. This is exactly what Abraham did. He had everything prepared for what was going to happen. And as we go into this week, we are being prepared for all of the things that can happen. We have our faith, we have our righteousness, we have our trust. And our faith and our salvation. And yeah, we've talked about the 5 defensive weapons that help protect us, but there's 2 offensive weapons that we know very well. It's the sword of the word, right? And prayer. And we've talked about prayer, right? Pray and then pray some more, and when you're done praying, pray again. And then when you're tired of praying, pray some more. And read your word in between the times that you pray. Some of this stuff can sound like, oh, I've heard that so many times. But because it's so important. Because it's the truth that we have to walk in. That prayer and the word are the most important things that we do. And those are the offensive weapons that we have. Truth, righteousness, peace, faith, salvation. "10 years we've been on this hill. And when I look at some of the things that we've done as a group, I was just reminded the other night of Night Watch. How many people remember Night Watch? It was that 42 hours of consecutive worship. 42 hours, not 42 hours of consecutive worship. All but 45 minutes of it was live worship and prayer. 42 hours. We did that. We were called and we did it. There's so many examples of this house being called and completing the task at hand. This is another one of those things. Without any question, this is another one of those things where we're being called to do something. Not a little thing. So I urge you this week, if God puts it on your heart, enter in communion. Enter into that special time with just you and Him, with the sole focus of prayer for yourself. Yourself. Wednesday night, come to worship night. It'll be Jen and Aaron and myself. We're worshiping that night, and we'll have prayer, and we'll have a lot of stuff. But come, because that's another way, another weapon that we have is worship. Well, what's worship? It's singing prayer, right? It's singing prayer. So we have that. And then when Thursday at noon, when we start the fast, Thursday at noon, know what you're going to do. Be prepared. Don't go into it at 11:45 going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Be prepared. Know that for the next 2 days, I think it's different for everybody. You know what's in your life that you need to let go. Because this is not necessarily a food fast. Am I right, Eileen?
Right.
This may be something totally different than food for you for 3 days. Is there something that takes you away? I mean, we all can fall victim to a phone, right? Or the newest F word, Facebook. We can fall victim to that. But remember, when you fast, the whole point of when you fast is when you would have been doing that, pray. When you would have been eating, pray. When you would have been on Facebook, pray.
Amen.
Jump into the Lord. Seek in to Him. Sit down. Be still. And seek His face. Sometimes, I've heard Pastor Jenny even recommend that don't even have music. Now, for me, that's tough. I mean, because for me, that's one of the keys. But don't be distracted by the music. Find a quiet place. Ooh, I'll be lucky to find that. But find a place where you can go and submerge yourself into the presence of the Lord. And it may only be for 15 minutes. But if you do that extra 15 minutes 3 times a day when you would have eaten, that's 45 minutes of prayer that you didn't have before. And in the course of the day, you're almost at 2 hours of prayer. And if one prayer can change the course of somebody's life, what could 2 hours of prayer do times by 50?
Amen.
That's why this is corporate. Because we're doing this together. So Lord, we thank you for this service today. We thank you for all of the things that you have for us this week. Because this is a busy church week, and it seems like it's been a while since we've had a busy church week. But you know what? I'm excited for a busy church week. Lord, we pray blessing on every member that calls this home, or everybody that's going to help or be a part of this fast. Lord, that you would place the direct order, the Abraham order,
Amen.
on them, so they know exactly what to do to be prepared, so that when Thursday comes, their donkey has the saddle and the wood has been cut. And that 3-day journey to the end of the fast or the service would produce the answers, would produce the direction. And in some cases, Lord, would even produce the healing that we are crying out for. Lord, we lift your name as high as we can. And we ask for you to rain down on us this week.
Yes. Yes, Lord.
Rain down on us this week, Lord. Lord, we love you. We love you, we love you, we love you. And we praise your name.